The race to the courthouse, does it even matter? People often ask me, does it matter who files first? Who's the plaintiff and who's the defendant? Well, it's not a criminal case, so there's nothing wrong with being the defendant in a divorce. So is there an advantage to filing first? It depends. Is there a hot, sort of pressing custody issue where you might need a judge's attention at the onset of a case? Then let's rush to the courthouse and make that filing. Or are we coming close to a pivotal date in the marriage? So I'm married 19 and a half years, I'm running to that courthouse and I'm filing the complaint because I don't want to hit 20 years if my case would involve alimony. So there are times where you want to rush to that courthouse, and there are other times where you could pull back and think about mediation before you get to the courthouse to see if you can resolve some of the issues in the case, if not all of the issues in the case, without having the time frame set by a judge. Is there a perfect time of year to file? Well, it all depends on your family, right? If you have a kid going off to college this year, maybe you don't want to file the divorce complaint just before your child is leaving for college. I see that all too often. I don't understand why parents think right after high school graduation is the time to march into the courthouse and file a complaint for divorce. Your poor child's moving into their dorm, and wait a minute, mommy and daddy are getting divorced now? Don't know that from a parental perspective, that's the best timing. But maybe there's something happening in your life that you say from a financial perspective that's going to be pivotal, that you say now is the time. I want to file now before this happens. And so you want to talk to a lawyer to know, does timing really matter in my divorce? More often than not, it doesn't, but there are those unique circumstances where the timing could be pivotal. The life cycle of a divorce. What happens? Well, someone files the complaint. That person becomes the plaintiff. You then serve that complaint on the other side, and that person files what's technically known as an answer. Pretty simple, a complaint and an answer. After that happens, the court does a few things. If there are children, they're going to send you off to mediation for custody and parenting time. Second, the court is going to schedule what's called a case management conference, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You leave with a scheduling order. I tell my clients it is sort of your project plan for your divorce, and the court will set dates for discovery. That's the exchange of information in your case. The court will then set down a date for mediation, and the court will set down other dates to check back in with the judge. Those are called case management conferences. The court is going to send you to mediation at multiple junctures in your divorce. Why? Because the court wants you to settle your case probably as much as your lawyer wants you to settle. Ultimately, do you get a trial date? Yes, it is possible if mediation ultimately fails. Depending on the county in which you have filed your complaint, the trial calendar could be years out, could be months out. It all depends. Is New Jersey a no-fault state or a fault-based state? We are both. There are fault-based claims. Adultery, that's fault-based. Irreconcilable differences would be an example of a no-fault divorce. Does it matter? It only matters to you. If you want to get divorced on the grounds of adultery for either religious reasons or some personal, deeply personal reason, that's a fault-based. And you have to prove that your spouse committed adultery. That's a whole long topic for another day on how you prove that. The reality is that would be fault-based. Irreconcilable differences is just saying, hey, it's been at least 6 months, we don't get along, and there's no possibility of reconciliation. Does the outcome change? Do I get more alimony because my spouse cheated? Or do I have to pay alimony to a cheating spouse? The answer is, it doesn't matter. So whether it's fault-based or no fault, the outcome in the divorce, the what each party is entitled to, is exactly the same. Fault-based divorces just require more work because you must prove the basis that you're filing the complaint under. And so what does that equate to? More legal fees for sure, and more steps in your process to actually prove it. I typically say, unless there's a religious or deeply personal reason, no fault makes more sense because the outcome is the same. I like to be prepared. So I'm thinking of filing for divorce, but I'm not going to file for several months. What should I do in this time period? Do I move all my assets into my sister's name so my spouse can't have any? Absolutely not. But what you can do that will assist your attorney is start gathering your financial records. Pull 5 years of tax returns. Start downloading your bank statements, your investment account statements, your retirement account statements, your credit card statements, and start working on your budget. Truth, The court has so many forms available on their website. You can download, you can know what the court is going to ask for. So you can start gathering your financial records as well as documenting what your family's budget is. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? Get all that information and you become a well-prepared litigant. The race to the courthouse doesn't matter. The who gets there first, who files first, generally speaking, doesn't matter. Also, the male-female component doesn't matter. And the timing can be pivotal depending on what's happening in your life. If you're coming up on 20 years of marriage or some other financially significant event is occurring in your short-term future, you may want to consider the timing of the filing of that complaint. And let's not forget, when the kids are leaving for college, think really hard about whether or not this is the perfect time to surprise them as they're moving into their dorm room that mommy and daddy are going their separate ways.